Sir，你聽唔聽到啊？Sir，冇聲啊，冇聲。
Okay, is it okay now? Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Hello, hello, hello. Okay, we have the feedback. Okay. Is it okay? Okay, it seems that we still have the feedback. Oh, hello. Is okay. 都你嘅時候嘅，快啲。應該 OK，但係你可以插翻啲嘢試啊。不過都回咗我。Hello, is it OK？呢度係咪要開翻先？哦係。Hello。OK，等我睇一睇先。呢個應該有聲啦，其實。Okay, but you feel much more comfortable than before？係咪舒服過頭先 ？So do you feel comfortable now？你先 OK， 咁頭先嗰個位係咪要校翻去邊？頭先個位，你個咪個位唔使理佢啦。你校佢熄咗就 OK。咁就 OK。好啦，辛苦你。落個手。咁樣個。係啱啱好，唔該，拜拜。Okay, once again, sorry about the technical problem. Here we are. We are now in your week 1, your lesson 1 of this module, elective module Y414, making sense of our well-selected topic in sociology. Okay, and I would like to move on to talk about some core ideas of this module. Okay. Okay. I think you can see the PowerPoint, right? Okay, then I get back to the PowerPoint, okay? Oh. Please wait me for a while. I would like to use my mobile phone to see whether I can monitoring this session. Okay, for the moment, I would like to talk about some ideas of sociological module. Okay, whenever we talk about sociology, and to begin with, some people may think, what should we focus on to the core ideas of sociology, okay? When we take a note of this statement from American Sociological Association, ASA, it seems that ASA refers to the practice and advancement of technology to talk about sociological approach and the assumption analysis of that, okay? From ASA, technology involves the use of process and material objects to produce goods, provide service, and connect people. The core idea is here, connect people. When we talk about the experts in sociology, they focus onto the social interactions which result and how they are impacted by different technologies. Okay, we have to pay attention to that. We talk about how to pay attention to the connection among different people, and we pay attention to the social interactions. So, which means that whenever we talk about sociological approach, we would like to talk about our understanding and the analysis among these people. So, when we move on to talk about the other perspective, for example, we can take a look of this statement from ESA, European Sociological Association. According to ESA, the experts in sociological domain increasingly are preferring media and focus on the media to talk about some social issues such as the latest crisis, COVID-19 crisis. Both the crisis management and the public debate on the pandemic itself are still dominated by biomedical perspective. So from this paragraph, you can see that when we talk about the perspective from ESA, quite different with the previous organization. Nevertheless, while both these organizations are the so-called very reputable famous association in sociology, then you may wonder, why do these organizations, even they are now focusing onto the one and only one domain, but still can have very different ideas and focus and the major themes towards their research area. In fact, when we talk about sociological approach, we have to pay attention, okay? We have to pay attention to the so-called cultural differences, okay? For example, when we talk about, okay, is it okay? Whenever you talk about how to take a look of the interactions, we have just mentioned, we have to talk about the interaction, okay? Whenever we talk about interactions, we can go to find the differences among different people. For example, think about the crisis, think about the COVID-19 crisis, okay? When you go to take a look of COVID-19 crisis, Hong Kong has gone through COVID-19 crisis for a total of 9 months altogether. When some people have already added the so-called social unrest into consideration, then maybe Hong Kong has gone through social crisis for almost 2 years or 1.5 years, okay? But when we get back to the details and the practice of COVID-19 crisis, we can find out some very interesting practice and observation. For example, when we talk about facial mask is a very interesting example. Hong Kong people do not fear to put on their facial masks, okay? And sorry, please wait me for a while. Oh, actually, I just turned off the PowerPoint. I thought to talk a while. It doesn't matter. I get back to the PowerPoint, okay? Okay, so you can imagine when we talk about facial mask, okay, Hong Kong people are okay with that, and when we talk about but you can take a look of the TV program, you can take a look of newspaper. When we talk about facial mask of the other regions, the USA, the UK, the citizens from the USA, from the UK are not okay with that, okay? Especially when we take a look of European regions, quite a number of cities, countries, and their citizens are not okay with facial mask. This is because they often want to talk about freedom, they often want to talk about their choice, their personal right and the like. So we can see that when we talk about some social issue, we cannot just focus on to that object individually. We may have to add some factor into consideration. Okay. To begin with, we have to talk about cultural differences. Okay. This is because Hong Kong people have a very painful consequence in 2003. Okay. And therefore, up to present, even about 2 decades has already gone, but we still often bear in mind that whenever we have to face this kind of crisis, it would be good to put on facial mask. But when we talk about the UK and the USA, it seems that they don't have this kind of experience. Okay, especially they often want to talk about freedom, human rights, and the like. And therefore, you can see we have to talk about cultural differences. But remember that whenever we talk about culture, whenever we talk about our daily practice, we have to remember that we have to pay attention to the differences of time. Okay. Somehow, no matter how, when we talk about some social phenomena, when we talk about some, for example, fraction, when you go to put that, the so-called culture to different time zone, and then you know that, oh, maybe we really have to take a note of the background as well. Okay, we also have to take a note of the background as well. For example, when we talk about gathering, okay, where for those who are the so-called friends of Jacob Broad, then you know the implementation of gathering, okay? You know what is gathering from Jacob Broad, you know how to get the minor spirit inspiration from rest. But when we talk about gathering from our culture, for Chinese people, we know that there is a very important idea in our daily practice. Whenever we have some very important festivals, for example, the forthcoming Mid-Autumn Festival, Lunar New Year, whenever we have this kind of festival, we would go together, and then people would go to visit the apartments of their relatives, of their friends, okay? They would go to chit chat for a whole night and something like that. So this is our culture, this is our tradition. But have you ever thought that contrary to the past few decades, we now have a very different practice when we talk about culture, okay? For example, you may still remember one of the different organizations mentioned that when we talk about sociological approach, when we talk about sociology, we may have to talk about technology. We may have to talk about some very different practice contrary to the past few decades. So this. So when we take note of this, since you can see that, oh, nowadays when we talk about gathering, we have a very different practice, okay? We don't really just go to visit the apartments of our relatives, of our friends, of buddies. Nowadays, we prefer to go outside, prefer to eat out, because we know that maybe the core ideas of gathering is not really the same. Okay, contrary to the past few decades. Nowadays, when we talk about gathering, you can imagine that from a daily practice, quite different with the old practice of your parents or your old days. Okay. Okay, friends, then I move on to get back to the PowerPoint. Okay, from time to time, I will come back to the meeting chat to see whether anything I have to make some adjustment. Okay, and remember, please feel free to stop me or to add any comments so that I can make some further actions immediately. Okay. Okay, we have just mentioned when we talk about the core ideas of gathering, actually quite different with the past few decades. This is because nowadays when we talk about gathering, we don't really value that platform very much. Okay, when we don't go to talk about how to meet your old friends or your grandparents, something like that, then we know that we don't really have to meet them in person. We can have FaceTime, we have Skype, we have WhatsApp, and we can video track. Okay, and when we talk about this kind of practice, actually, so we don't really have to stick with some real meeting. Especially nowadays when we gather together, quite a number of people, they really don't enjoy it very much. They just go to not surfing by their iPhone, iPad, and like. But remember, when we talk about gathering big ideas, contrary to the local practice, take a look of the practice of the other region, like the USA, the UK. They do value it at all very much. Okay, for example, most of the citizens in the USA, in the UK, of the other European regions, they do have religion. They often go to church in weekend. Okay, they value it very much because they understand that that is a very good platform for them to meet with each other, and also a very good platform for them to exchange their idea and to maybe to find a chance and to approach the other parties to give further counseling of their children, something like that. I'm not sure whether you have heard about that before. Godparents, okay, godparents, which means that when we talk about the practice in the other region, like the USA, UK, they often would go to find someone, maybe a reputable one, or maybe the other people. Sorry, please wait for a while. Hello. 我加咗你㗎，冇事，我加咗你㗎，冇事，你睇下再睇下。Okay, so for those who would like to know more about the core, the interesting idea of a gathering, you can go to find newspaper and then you search coffee gathering, then you will have much more idea of that. Okay. Okay, so when we talk about sociology, okay, we have reviewed and covered quite a number of interesting ideas, okay, quite a number of interesting examples. So get back to the core idea, the essence of sociology, okay? Now you understand that it means different things to different people, okay? It can mean different things to different people. We can take note of the first quotation here. Sociology is the study of human behavior. Sociology refers to social behavior, sociology pattern of social relationships. especially we have to pay attention to this term, culture. So when we talk about sociology, we have to talk about culture, okay? We have to talk about the interaction. You may wonder, why do I add the source in here, Wikipedia? This is because I would like to remind you that, very likely, please do your best to not use Wikipedia. Even you really like that ideas very well, okay, you like that idea very much, and you know it very well that it would be good not to use Wikipedia. Even you would like to use that ideas, maybe you can go to take note of the source, okay? You can go to take note of the footnote, okay? Just remember to not just copy and paste a link from Wikipedia and then to use that as your reference, okay? Please remember, focus on to the academic source, okay? And I would like to talk about another definition, okay? The science of society, social institutions, and social relationships. Remember, when we talk about sociology, very often we would go to use different terms and they are interchangeable, okay? So here, this is another definition, and this definition refers to some core elements to make further interpretation and analysis of sociology, okay? It seems that from this perspective, social institution is a very important element. But remember that sometimes when we talk about social institutions, some people would use social agent to replace social institutions. The example of social institutions or agents can refer to university, okay, government, hospital, and the like. In general speaking, when we talk about the core idea of social agent or institution, we view these elements as a functional whole, which means that we rely on all of the different social agents. Okay, we have to rely on all of the different social agents to run our society. Okay. Okay, it is too complicated for you when we talk about social agent can represent different organizations of our society. Okay. When we talk about the ideas of the core, the definition of sociology, actually we also can refer to this one, okay? Dictionary.cambridge.org. This is about a study of relationships between people living in groups, a study of human society. So here we move on to another perspective. When we talk about sociology, some people focus on the differences among different groups, which means that when we take a look and make further analysis, we can go to we would be able to separate some interesting factors among these different parties. Okay. Okay, here we are. This is David Ho. I'm your tutor in the coming weeks of this module. Okay, and I am the module convener of this elective module, and I'm also a tutor of some GE common general education core modules. And meanwhile, I am the Moodle coordinator and Turnitin coordinator. And before we move on, I would like to ask you to give me some idea regarding your understanding and your ideas towards the notion of sociology, okay? Will you please go to this platform, or you also can go to make the full use of this QR code, then to add some terms in your mind regarding how do you describe sociology, okay? Or some people, okay, it seems that we have received some feedbacks from you, okay, and different religion, but home. Okay, very well. Some people have already remembers the core idea from our previous sharing. Okay, social life. Okay, social life is a very interesting understanding towards sociological approach. Okay, for example, when we say someone is sociable, okay, how do you view sociable? Okay, able to accept different values. Okay. Okay, for example, when we talk about sociable, okay, this is a very interesting term for us to talk about how to understand someone. When we say, for example, when we say a lady is sociable, and actually, which means that this is only about to understand the value and different view from the other people. Maybe can also refer to someone is ready or not ready to talk with everyone, every people at will, something like that. When we talk about someone is sociable, then we suppose this is a very active lady or maybe very proactive. But the point is that, remember, we have to pay attention to the interaction. Right from the beginning, we mentioned interaction, we mentioned culture, okay? So we can imagine, when we talk about someone is or is not sociable, we may really have to pay attention to the background, to the details of the background, to the differences of culture, okay? Some people, when they go to meet you in person, okay, they may give you a hug, they may kiss the face, something like that, when we talk about the practice of European regions. So for some people come from Korea, okay, come from the mainland China, they may feel not really good at all, okay. But when we talk about the people, the neighbor in European region, it seems that they are okay with this kind of practice because they know this is a very fundamental they practice, okay, among themselves. When we talk about sociology, some people talk about government. That's a very interesting one because when we take a look of government, you can really go to make some further analysis regarding some action and reaction of our government. Okay, one of the major elements of sociology is about observation. Okay, and when you go to take a note of a government, then you can see that, oh, to a large extent, the government just like human beings, okay? When you and me have, sometimes may have bias, okay? Sometimes we have our own perspective. So when we take a note of government, you also can see that different governments, the local government, the mainland government, may represent something by their action and reactions, okay? And then when we talk about culture, one of you has already mentioned a very good term, okay? Patterns of patterns of our society. Yes, when we talk about sociology, we want to talk about how can we make further analysis among different behaviors. It seems to you and me very odd that when we talk about, for example, Pokemon Go, that's a very interesting game, but you may have already heard that quite a number of different organizations in Hong Kong, especially those primary school and secondary school, they do not like Pokemon Go very well, okay? They don't like Pokemon Go very much. But have you ever thought that when we talk about Pokemon Go, actually, that is very popular topic, especially in the university or even high school in the other region, okay? Okay, you may have no idea, but right from the beginning, just after a couple of months, okay, some of the famous universities in the USA have already create undergraduate level modules, undergraduate level courses, and make a connection with Pokemon, okay, with Pokemon Go. This is because when we talk about Pokemon Go, this is not only a game for the children, but also they can make a connection with some interesting practice, and then to make a connection between the children, between Peter and the museums and some advanced technology. For example, you can imagine that whenever we go to set up to witness certain amounts of Pokemon here and there, actually, the children will not just go to there to catch it. And then the children can have some understanding regarding how to plan a faster way to reach to that destination. And then when they go around, search around a museum, they may go to enter that museum to take a look. To a certain extent, it would enrich their knowledge. But when we talk about local practice, actually, right from the beginning, quite a number of primary school and secondary school had urged the company not to remove the Pokemon station around the campus. So you can see the differences, okay? When we talk about sociology, we have to pay attention to the differences. We cannot just focus on to one and particular corner of phenomenon, because we know that culture or sociology can mean different things to different people, okay? To be frank, so far so good. Am I too fast or too slow, or it's okay? Okay, if not, then I move on to talk about some details first. Okay, this is a module, and this is a module regarding our practice and to make further analysis of some of the phenomena of our society, okay? After the end of this module, we believe that you can achieve the following learning outcomes. To begin with, you can evaluate different theoretical perspectives in sociology by relating to in-depth knowledge of one or more areas of the module content, okay? Which means that we will cover quite a number of different topics. For example, we will talk about social class. We will talk about the differences of class, okay? We have upper class, middle class, and lower class. But when we really go to take a look of their practice, of their experience, you know that we may have to deal with quite a number of barriers, because nowadays quite difficult for you and me to define whether someone is middle class or not, okay? In the past, it would be good for us to talk about what is the boundary of middle class. But nowadays, it seems that very often when we talk about the quality of life, for example, when we talk about the quality of life of middle class, it seems that quite painful and contrary to the lower class. Maybe when we talk about lower class, they often have a much more better quality of life. They feel much more comfortable because they often can get the support or some additional resources by different methods, okay? So when we talk about the forthcoming topics, we would try to see whether we can have some, okay, we can explore the connection among these topics. And then we'll go to compare and contrast perspective of people with different culture, with different cultural backgrounds, ethnic and social backgrounds, okay? Which means that you will be able to raise question and then refer to this question to see whether we can find out the implication of some phenomena, okay? For example, you may still remember we have the example of facial mask, okay? So many Hong Kong people, they are okay with facial mask because we understand that we had a very painful journey experience in 2003, okay? But when we talk about the people in the USA and the UK, they don't really understand it very well, okay? So you can see when we take a note of the number, when we take a note of the death rate, when we take a note of this number, you can see we can refer to the difference of culture, and then you can see from the result, from the consequence, to understand culture matters. We will go to apply sociological concepts and theoretical frameworks in making further analysis of our everyday practice, okay? Which means that, for example, we can go to take a look of some issues or some phenomena of our society and then try to separate it into different perspectives or based on different approach to make further analysis. For example, I'm not sure whether you have heard this term before, okay? Micro perspective and macro perspective. Have you ever heard about these terms before? Okay, when we talk about macro perspective, okay, that is about a broad view of our understanding towards certain issues, okay? When we talk about micro perspective, which means that we will go to take note of the details of the connection among different people and their behavior, action and reactions, okay? Macro perspective and micro perspective. And then we will go to have, hopefully we can have some critical evaluation regarding some key issues and problems of the contemporary societies. For example, quite a number of people do not like our government to spend 100,000 or million, billion dollar resources to talk about landfill in Landhouse Island, okay? But to a large extent, when we take a look from a functional approach, okay, it seems that not bad at all, okay? In the coming weeks, we will talk about conflict, we will talk about function, we will talk about symbolic, okay? All of this can be regarded as a core theories in sociology. The so-called functionalism, conflict theory, and symbolic theory, okay? For example, when we talk about whether the government can promote landfill or not, can represent whether our government can maintain authority, okay, can have a phrase or can maintain reputation or not. So to a certain extent can refer to the so-called symbolic meaning, which means that when our government cannot promote landfill projects, consequently, Carry Lam, our government may lose face, and then in the near future may feel much more difficulties for them to open new projects. Okay. When we talk about functional perspective, which means that for long term, because we don't have sufficient apartments, okay, we don't have sufficient land, so it would be good for us to talk about how to start the landfill project as soon as possible. So this is an example regarding functional perspective. When we talk about conflict, okay, quite a number of people, they don't like to talk about landfill because it will harm, it will destroy our environment. So it would be good not to talk about landfill project, okay? But when we talk about our government, as mentioned, we don't have sufficient apartments. We don't have sufficient land. So and not that many people would go to country park, would really enjoy the natural environment. So maybe it would be good to talk about landfill project and to make it become a real one as soon as possible. So in the coming weeks, we will learn how to, based on different perspectives, to make further analysis and to evaluate this practice in a logical way. And then when we talk about another learning outcome, it's about how can we, based on different perspectives, especially based on this perspective, to see how social force affects our daily life, which means that we would like to pay attention to certain details. As mentioned, you may still remember we mentioned social agents, social institutions. We will go to take a look to see the dynamics among different social agents. Okay, for example, when we talk about government, when we talk about police department, okay, why do so many people do not like police service department, because much more whenever our government has some problem, it seems that according to some concerned unknown source of news, only refer to the support of police force. So you can see that we can go to refer to the different perspective and theory to make further analysis of these ideas. Okay, hopefully after the end of this module, you can understand sociological point of views, and then to make comparison and to compare different perspectives as well. Here is a rundown of this module. Okay, we have a total of 7 topics altogether. And okay. And here is some prescribed reading for your reference. But remember that you can go to explore here and there by yourself to find the relevant reading if necessary. Okay, all of this can only be regarded as reference. When you go to, for example, googlescholar.com, then you know that quite user-friendly and you can find much more relevant topics that may perfectly match with the flow of your argument. Okay. So this module basically only have 3 major sessions, major parts. Okay. To begin with, we have class engagement and participation. For every week, we will have a minor task for you to finish. Okay. You only have to do some very small task, and then it won't be a very difficult task for you. And we will have a number of discussions. Okay, the weekly writing and discussion would count for this item. When we talk about weekly writing, remember that not academic writing, free writing, which means that you don't have to add reference in-text citation. You don't have to use technical term. You don't have to use some glossary from this module. We want to give you a platform to refresh your idea and make connection with current affairs. Okay, to find a chance to express yourself, your ideas, your feeling. Okay. Reflective essay, we will come back to reflective essay, and you only have to write 1,200 words. Okay, but it occupies around 2/3 of your brain. We will cover the requirements of reflective essay very soon. Group presentation. Your group presentation is just a presentation. You don't have to prepare a report. Okay, so but remember, when we talk about the proportion of the marks, okay, I think after the submission of your reflective essay in week 10, please do not give up your group presentation. Okay, I often encourage you all to engage with group presentation, because only a presentation, you don't have to prepare a group report. So it would be good to engage with it and then to show your understanding and your achievement of this module. When we talk about class engagement, because we will have some field writing, about 200 words, okay, per week, not academic writing, just please feel free to write your ideas. Okay, so it won't be a very difficult task for you. And meanwhile, we will have a number of group discussion. Okay, so hopefully we can meet in person after week 3 or week 4. Will much more easy for you and me to form group for discussion. And reflective essay, okay, reflective essay, as mentioned, occupy around 2/3 of your grades. And we will talk about how to pay attention to integrity, which means that when you prepare your reflective essay, do not just go to search around and copy and paste materials, okay? Group presentation is another important item, as mentioned, okay? You don't have to prepare a report then. Why don't you just fully engage with that, okay? Be a friend to show your full understanding of your focus area. So far, so good. Any question? All of you have been enrolled onto the Moodle platform, okay? For those who haven't been enrolled onto the Moodle, please feel free to tell me so that I can add you again. Okay, so far so good. Any questions so far? Okay, thank you. For the moment, I would like to move on to show a movie, to show a video, okay? This video is a film. It calls After the Dark. The film consists of quite a number of sociological ideas and some philosophical framework, okay? We can view it, okay, maybe we can take a break, and during that break, we play that video, okay? And then we get back to the content of the video. So for the moment, I would like to just view it as a break. I would like to play that video. To be frank, I have already got the okay. To be frank, I have already got that a copy of that video. However, I have just found a version from YouTube, and it has Chinese and English subtitles simultaneously. I think this version works for you, okay? So this is why I prefer to play it by YouTube instead of my version, because my version only has an English title. After a long day work, I don't want you to engage with that too much, okay? So maybe give you to offer a Chinese subtitle would good for you, okay? So for the moment, I would like to move on to play that video, okay? When you go to enjoy this video, please remember, try to observe what are the philosophical or social phenomena or ideas from the video, okay? And the video would involve some minor sensitive scenes, but I think it won't be a very difficult and browsing task for you, okay? Okay, please wait me for a while. I go to take a note. No sound for the video. Okay. Let me see. Okay, basically, before the end of the video, you may still remember that most of the survivors have to encounter a very struggling situation. They have to make a decision regarding go to is that turtle or not. After that, they then may have to make another difficult situation, whether to add that body or not. To a large extent, when we talk about this situation, actually, you may wonder you may have no idea why do these survivors have to be struggle like this because not just then when we talk about our society, we do have the so-called norms, okay? Norm, N-O-R-M, social norms, which mean that we believe some of the behaviors or conduct are extremely prohibited. And it seems that for those people who are well educated, it shouldn't be proceed to that level. But when we talk about the core idea of this video, actually, we can get back to the example from the video regarding trolley dilemma, okay? Actually, this video consists of a total of 3 different chapters. We have just read the chapter 1, okay? Once from the beginning, you may still remember that it mentioned about the example of trolley dilemma. Just before you and me, you can see that when we take a look of the left-hand side, there's a fat guy, and it seems that when you go to do something, or when you go to just adjust or push on a button accidentally, then maybe a trolley would change the direction, and then the trolley would go to crash with that fat guy instead of the 5 innocent people, something like that. So the point is that when we talk about this kind of practice, actually very often people for medical school, they would often go to focus on this example and then to ask the students to have a debate regarding whether we have to make a decision like this. But in fact, when we talk about our decision in daily practice, very often it involves much more complicated rationale behind. For example, we have just mentioned before the end of the video, they didn't have sufficient food. In fact, when we talk about farming, okay, when we talk about we have sufficient or not to have sufficient food, actually, obviously, you and me and most of the harmful people do not have to fear or face with this situation because we understand that whenever you go to any restaurant to order a hot pot, it seems that we don't have to worry about the problem of insufficient food. Nowadays, we even have quite a number of scientists have already focused on DNA engineering. They go to reform the DNA and then to make the food to last much longer than ever. But still, we can see that for quite a number of people, they still do not have sufficient food. So when we talk about resources, actually, why do we have to talk about a fair or equal distribution? Because very often when we talk about distribution, it could be affected by the differences of power. For example, when we get back to the video, the tutor is the one and the only one who can go to determine which one can go to the bunker, okay? And according to the tutor, the only one criteria, the rationale is about logic. And then they would like to ensure to make these people can go to ensure the long-term sustainable practice of human beings. However, when we talk about chapter 2, we will not go to take a lot of chapter 2, but I can give you some idea of that. When we move on to chapter 2, it mentions some very interesting practice, and you may have never thought before. When we talk about the survivor, when we talk about the 10 people, when we talk about the candidates who have been selected to the bunker, they consist of gay couple, consist of a person with cancer. So you may wonder, when we get back to the chapter 1, when sustainable practice. Sustainability is the so-called only one criterion for the tutor to make decision. Then why do we focus on these people? You will still remember that right from the beginning we mentioned when we talk about sociological approach, when we talk about sociological model, when we talk about sociology, we may have to pay attention to one important element, time. And we also have to pay attention to the differences of time, which means that when time moves on, okay, some of the non-standing practice may have to face the churn from the general public, from maybe from the, for example, judicial review from the High Court, okay? You may have already heard about this before. About a couple of years ago, we have an officer from Immigration Department seek for the so-called judicial review JR from High Court regarding his partner did not enjoy some benefits or to get the allowance from the government because they are gay couple. And a couple of years later, and then they received the approval from the High Court. And the government, and since then, the government has changed relevant policies and to a certain extent, even didn't make it loud and clearly to mention on the different regulations, but gay couple are now workable to apply this kind of benefits. So you can see, whenever we talk about sociological approach, we also have to pay attention to the importance of time, okay? Which means that maybe for about 100 years ago, most of the ladies, they didn't have the right to vote, okay? But nowadays, you know that boys and girls, men and women, we all can go to give a vote in election, okay? So I would like to move on to talk about the details of some important platform and announcement, okay? All of you have already been enrolled onto the Moodle. I have been enrolled all of the participants for this Moodle in a couple of hours ago. Hopefully, all of you have already been enrolled. For the newcomers, maybe the system has not received your information, and therefore, you haven't been enrolled. So for those who haven't been enrolled, please feel free to approach me, give me a call, or send me an email, okay? But still, when we talk about the major task of this module, you may still remember that we have just mentioned about turning in, we have just mentioned about Moodle. And you have to submit your homework onto the turning in by Moodle, okay? So we may have to talk about plagiarism because whenever you go to prepare your work, please remember that all of your work has to be undergo the tracking by turning in. Now I would like to talk about how to prepare your reflected essay. So remember that whenever you go to prepare your essay, okay, and remember to bookmark this platform, okay, to bookmark this platform, scholar.google.com, okay. For example, I would like to find a paper from Nữ Đại Học. This is a scholar, and he has quite a number of publications regarding the practice of middle class. So I go to Google Scholar and input this work. And then you can see that quite a number of relevant papers has been identified. Take a note of here, okay? Here, remember this button, okay? Whenever you touch on, then you can see a very decent reference list, okay? Your reflective essay had to add, reference list, a decent reference list. You can choose whatever style you like, but remember, you have to make it a coherent reference list, okay? You have to prepare a decent, coherent style reference list. And very often you may want to find some resources out of the so-called academic paper. Yes, you can go to search different blogs or database. For example, I am a columnist in local newspaper, Hong Kong Economic Journal, and I have published some Chinese and English commentaries. But remember that whenever you go to use these resources, do not just copy and paste. Again, do not just copy and paste. And you also have to pay attention to the different practice of referencing style of these platforms, okay? Okay, remember that. And then when we talk about your reflective essay, and remember that I know that many of you may worry about how to get a good grade or better grade. Here, please take note of the rubric, okay? Rubric has already mentioned and outlined the so-called requirement criteria for different grades, okay? For example, when we talk about a grade paper, you may have to examine all of the important perspective, okay, to have some solid argument, okay, and then your argument should be supported by some evidence. But somehow, no matter how, when your argument are underdeveloped, okay, or maybe the conclusion or some of the ideas have been overlooked, then the consideration of argumentation may be deducted a grade, okay? And whilst the notion of reasoning is sometimes impaired by risk, emotive or inconceptive argumentation, then you will be deducted to another grade again. But remember, the most important point is that regarding the work limitation, okay? You may wonder, why do I have to talk about the word limitations? Okay, why you may wonder, why do I have to talk about word limitation? The common we will go to talk about the details. So for the moment, you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about it. But I would like to put out this point. Okay, word limitation. I can tell you that in the past, when we talk about 1,200 words, some people can write it up to 2,000, 3,000 words, okay? But remember that when some people can complete and finish this reflective essay within 1,200 words, but you have to use 2,000 words or even 3,000 words, your grade would be heavily be deducted. Okay, for example, when some people, when there's a student submit a 2,000 word essay, which means that almost around 2/3 or 70% was much more than the other participants. Consequently, it will be deducted at least one full grade. Okay, so remember that. And once again, for those without in-text citation, will be deducted one subgrade. For those without a reference list, will be deducted one subgrade. For those with more than 1/3 or even 2/3 work limitation, then the rest, then maybe will be deducted a full grade. So remember that you have to pay attention to your preparation. You have to remember to not write too much words, okay? Please view it as a training, okay? Is it okay? Is clear regarding this fundamental requirement? Here, I would like to let you to take note this example. This is an example of plagiarism, okay? A total of 3 different paragraphs have been highlighted. When you take note of the second and third paragraphs, obviously, very serious copy and paste, okay? And then even when we take note of the final paragraphs, only around 1/3 or maybe around 50% have been highlighted, but still not really a good practice. And all of these sentences have been highlighted and count as a total of 70%. Okay, but remember that do not worry about the percentage. Whenever you have a reference list, okay, for example, wherever you have a reference list, for each item of your reference, will count 1% because everyone will use the same pattern to present that reference. And therefore, when you have a total of 10 different references, consequently, it will count 10%. Okay, so do not just pay attention to the number, but you have to pay attention to the details and the breakdown of the originality report. Okay. And remember that when you submit your reflective essay, you have to attach with this declaration form. There's a declaration of academic integrity, which means that when you submit your work, you have to attach this form as the cover. Okay. And here is an example of reference. This is an example of Harvard practice, but just feel free to use whatever you like. You don't have to worry about whether this is not a very good one. The point is choose the right one, which make you feel much more comfortable. Okay. And then please worry me for a while, okay? Yeah. Okay, as part of your participation, okay, and for each of the coming week, you will have a total of 7 reflective notes, okay? And the reflective notes, remember that do not really relevant to the module topic, okay? Please just view it as a reflective free writing so that you can have a chance to interpret, to write down your understanding and observation of the current affairs. So the first reflective notes refer to the background in here. Hong Kong government initiated the legislation of the extradition law in 2019, which consequently embarked controversial debates among all walks of life. Since then, a series of social events have continued still now. This is the background. And the question fueled by this background as follows. In what ways do your family, peer, and the social media influence your decision or consideration to engage or not to engage in these social events? Okay. When we talk about social event, you can refer it to different practice. Okay. For example, demonstration or just as a keyboard fighter to say something, to deliver some message and the like. Among this practice, okay, family, peer, the social media, which means that, for example, family can refer to your fathers and sisters, parents, relatives. Peer can refer to your co-workers, your friends, your classmates, your neighbors. When we talk about the social media, can refer to Instagram, news program, social networking, Facebook, and the like, okay? Among these factors, which one plays a significant role in affecting your decision or consideration? What are the reasons? Which means that to a large extent, your friends, your family, or the social media like Instagram or Facebook affect you would go to join a, for example, demonstration, protest or not, okay? We have a total of 7 reflective notes, okay? But remember that when we talk about reflective notes, as mentioned, just give you a chance to release your idea, to express your idea to the current affairs, okay? You don't have to add reference, inter-citation, okay? Not academic writing. Some people have, actually this module have 2 different sessions. Another one has been allocated on Tuesday morning, okay, afternoon, okay. They have already raised a question to me regarding this exercise. Bias are allowed or not? Actually, yes, that's fine, okay, because this is your reflective loss, okay. For long term, before the end of this module, we could have time to talk about how to understand this kind of reflective loss. But remember that when we talk about the design of reflective loss, actually, to begin with, I would like to find a way out to give you some marks. I would like to find a forms, a method to give you a chance to show your engagement with this module. And to a large extent, I think it won't be kill you too much time, okay? When every day we would go to send messages by WhatsApp, by Facebook, and the like for hundreds or even thousands. So this reflective loss only have to write 200, okay? Not more than 200, not more than 200 words, okay? So to begin with, not academic writing. And then you don't have to, for example, you not really academic writing. You don't have to add reference. You don't have to add interpretation. And bias are even okay. Just please feel free to write it at will. The initiative for me to decide this one for you because I would like to give you a chance to practice. You can imagine that in the near future, in the coming weeks, in the coming months, when you have a chance to attend an interview for a job, for a scholarship, or immigration, whatever, okay? They will not go to ask you some theoretical knowledge. For example, they will not go to ask you to interpret an equation, a formula from your domain, from your field. They will not go to ask you to do calculations, something like that. They will go to ask you, oh, how do you view the native practice of a society? How do you view our government? Something like that. So the design of reflective loss aims to give you an early preparation to be ready, to be prepared of this platform, of these opportunities. Okay, so just please feel free to write it as your reflective, as a summary of your idea towards the latest current affairs. Okay, please don't feel and pressure from this task. Only 200 free writing. Okay, don't worry about the details. Okay, but remember, don't over focus the importance of grammar. Okay, because the sample would be submitted to would be kept, and therefore just please also pay attention to the usage of your language. Okay. How percentage similarity do you accept in the okay? I'm not sure whether you have missed that before. Remember, we don't have remember, we don't have a strict, very standardized number, okay? You can imagine when you have a 5 paragraph and every paragraph may have been highlighted some ideas. And then add up to about 20%. But when we talk about a whole paragraph, maybe only count you 10%. But obviously, when we talk about 20% but have been separated into different tasks, maybe it would be okay when you take a look of the highlighted proportion. Okay, remember, this is reflective notes instead of reflective essay, okay? Remember, when we talk about reflective loss, I would like to give you a chance to get some marks, okay? And hopefully can give you a chance to be prepared for some forthcoming interviews. When you apply a job, when you apply a scholarship, they would ask you to express your ideas. But often the target is social issues. Okay, they will not tell you, they will not ask you to talk about how to explain, interpret a formula. Okay, so this is why I would like to talk about this reflective loss. To not just stand and when we talk about reflective loss, actually, just please feel free to express your idea. And so that the more I can understand your perspective and your observation, then maybe it will help me to prepare teaching and learning material in the coming weeks, okay? I also can be prepared to understand how would you choose your presentation topics to make further recommendation for you. So just please feel free to write whatever you like, okay? And I'm neutral. You don't have to worry about whether I agree or not to agree some ideas. We don't have model answer in sociology, okay? Only have to prepare your answer by logic. To have a good flow, that would be enough, okay? Okay, very often we would spare a certain time for you to do it together. This because later we will get back to it. So and once again, I would like to mention that you may have already noticed that the PowerPoint from our session is not really exactly the same with the one at Moodle, okay? This is because we have to take copyright into consideration. So when we talk about So I'm confused as a document. Someone has raised a question regarding the document from Moodle. GEE5414 Assessment 2020 0911 version. That is the correct version. Okay, when we talk about your reflective essay, we will go to talk about the details in the coming week. Okay, and every one of you only have to choose one question from the three. Okay, and I have just mentioned reflective notes. Reflective notes is a free writing, 200 words, and it only asks you to give your idea regarding your understanding to the current practice of our society. So different things, okay, different things. But remember, when we talk about reflective note, okay, once again, reflective essay, remember, 1,200 words academic writing, okay? You may still remember that I have mentioned only 1,200 words that can be regarded as a training because it has, you have to add intercitation and you have to base on the arguments and finding of the other people and then elaborate your point. So it would not be regarded as an easy task. We will spare consultation for you guys to prepare reflective essay. Don't worry about that because we will have time to talk about how to prepare your essay. You will have a session. We can go through your outline, the draft of your reflective essay together later. But reflective notes actually, again, 200 words, free writing, without intercitation, without reference, without technical terms, okay, without any academic term, and therefore, just view it as a chance for you to learn how to talk and how to express your idea of the current affairs, okay? Somehow, no matter how, you will have a chance to talk with these issues, okay? And your boss, your potential interviewees may give you a question regarding, oh, you have completed a sociological module. How do you view the current affairs? How do you view social unrest? How do you view one country, two systems like that? Okay, so a total of 7 reflective notes just give you a chance to train yourself to express your idea towards the current affairs. Okay. You have to follow the questions, okay, from the PowerPoint. Actually, In fact, the question has been added to Moodle, okay? I have created and opened the first reflective note for you to submit. In generally speaking, I would like you to submit it within a week, okay? Of course, after the due date, you still can submit it because when we talk about reflective notes, I do not want to push you, I do not want to give you too much pressure because the initiative of that is to ask you express your idea at will. So I don't want to give you too much pressure. But you can imagine, you don't go to complete this very small task weekly. Consequently, before the end of this semester, you may have to deal with the other stuff at the same time. So it won't be a good practice. Okay. Yes, once again, you may have already noticed that the PowerPoint of our class is not exactly the same with the version at Moodle platform, okay? Due to the consideration of copyright, I often add video, animation, pictures to catch your attention, okay? So, but to a large extent, the core ideas have been added to that file, so don't worry about that. Okay, and actually, I think I have finished most of the core message for your lesson one. Lesson one is not really about the module content, just give you a background, just would like to talk about some ideas of sociological approach should be like in what way to make further analysis, okay? But remember that when we talk about sociology, okay, just as what we have observed from the video, very often when we talk about sociology, this is about connection among different people. This is about the interaction among different people. You may wonder, for example, you may wonder, why did the tutor would based on occupations to determine which one can go to the bunker, which one cannot? To a certain extent, we may have to agree with his decision because at that moment, the ultimate goal is about sustainability. And therefore, right from the beginning, the tutor focus on those occupations, and because at that moment he would like to plan for a way out of future after a year long when everyone, the survivor, would come out from the bunker. But of course, when we talk about chapter 2, you may still remember that gay couple and a lady with cancer could be selected. This is because we have mentioned we have to take time, okay, as an important factor, okay. When we talk about sociological phenomena, actually, time is very important. For example, when we talk about fashion, 5 years ago, many people like cheesecake, but nowadays not many people like it at all. This is because we have much more different choice in hand. When we talk about our daily practice, 100 years ago, people go to bed at 10, at 11. Nowadays, people go to bed at 1 or 2 o'clock a.m. because we have been occupied by technology. We may have to search Facebook, Instagram for an hour. So we can see that when we talk about time, it can be regarded as one of the core factors to affect our daily practice in society. Okay. Anyway, this is almost the end of our introductory session. Okay. Please feel free to raise any question regarding the major direction of this module. Or for those who would like to focus on which topics, can also raise your idea in here. Okay. Okay, remember, this week the coming week, we will review the details of reflective essay and to talk more about how to prepare your essay step by step. And then we will move on to all of the topics one by one, okay? So for the rest of you, you can please feel free to raise your question, or maybe you also can ask me your question regarding the reflective notes. Maybe you would like to talk about whether some of the elements are worth or not worth to make further elaboration for your reflective note writing. I believe we may have to keep this platform to have our class until week 3, okay? It seemed to me that we have received emails before week 3, we would focus on this platform. We will not have a face-to-face class. Hopefully, we can meet you in, I can meet you in person, so that we can have a better interaction to talk about some of ideas. But once again, remember to prepare your mic and headphone in the coming week, because we will have discussion, and you will be formed by different teams to have discussion. Okay. Sorry. Yes, before this week, please try to do it. Okay. And actually, I have already set the due date a little bit longer than a week. But remember, this don't because everything has to be kept. But I do not think 200 words would be really a difficult task for you. Just remember, don't copy and paste from somewhere and then to give me 200 words. Okay. When we talk about 200 words, once again, a good platform, a chance for you to interpret your ideas of the current affairs to the social practice, okay? Remember, not academic writing, no reference, no reference, no academic terms. Just give me your gut feeling, just similar to your message at Facebook or the other chit chat, okay? The major reason is find a way to give you some mask. Okay, good to have you all in this class. See you next week. And the coming week, we will move on to all of the topics one by one. We have a total of 7 topics, and we will go to review all of the 7 topics one by one. And then before that, you also please feel free to approach me regarding your preparation of regarding essay or presentation, because some people may want to make an earlier preparation even we have not covered that particular topic. Okay, so see you next week. Bye bye.